Okay, I've noticed something important. It's just happened recently. It's an article about Italy in the Financial Times. And there's a problem here. The ECB, European Central Bank, and Brussels are arguing right now. They're arguing back and forth over Italy's oldest bank. Well, here's the thing. Uh, just a little while ago, I reported on it, and from the information that I was obtaining from news sources, that Italy was going to bail out the world's largest bank, and the bank also uh, uh, the biggest banks in Italy were going to have this bailout. And this is what I said to myself. Well, okay, they're bailing them out. They're going to have some money for a while. It should last them, I don't know, 20 billion should last them at least 6 months, 4 to 6 months before the problem will reemerge again in Italy. See, it's not going to go away because they owe 360 billion. So 20 billion, it'll cover it for a little while. I thought they were kicking the can down the road. But here's the problem. They're not kicking the can down the road just yet. There's some holdbacks on all this. And the ECB in Brussels are arguing over Italy in their banking system right now. And the Italian government, they're trying to shore up the banking system, you know, and their efforts to recapitalize troubled Mount de Pesci. It's been in limbo, and it's in limbo right now, and they're trying to. There's a problem with the whole thing. The whole thing's starting to smell bad to me right now. And the reason that they're not giving they're stalling. The whole thing's stalling. I think, personally, I'll tell you what's going through my mind. I'll try to explain it to you. If a bunch of kids were on the beach and the tide was coming in, and they were building a big sandcastle, and they just love this sandcastle, right? And they could see the tide coming in, so they started building walls of sand up in front of the sandcastle to try to protect the sandcastle. And they kept heaping that sand in higher and higher, and the waves are coming up toward their sandcastle, and their sandcastle's over here. And they keep heaping up the sand in front of the sandcastle, making basically a dam to keep the tide back. At a certain point, though, the kids would start to be breathing heavy, working so hard to heap all this earth in this dam that they're making to protect the sandcastle. And at a certain point, one of the kids might stand back and start to argue with the other kids and say, "Stop, stop. It's no use. The tide's coming in too fast. It's going to come over and it's going to breach anyway. And we can't stop it. And we're all working so hard and we're out of breath trying to keep this big dam going in front of the sandcastle. And we just can't do it." And at a certain point, one of the smarter kids realizes, he says, "No, boys, stop. It's no use." Have you ever thought that this might be what's happening right this minute? That they were planning on coming to rescue, and they were going to bring the $20 billion in to rescue the $360 billion in non-performing loans that Italy owes, and to save these big banks in Italy. And all of a sudden, they're like, right now, they're like the kid. They're sitting back and they're saying, "This will just be a temporary measure. Ultimately, Greece is going to be coming in for more money. Italy's going to be coming in for more money. Spain's going to be coming in for more money." And the bankers right now and the people that's going to lend them this money and kick the can down the road, they're in a state of saying to themselves, "We can't do it. It's like the tide coming in. It's going to be too much. It's going to overwhelm us." And they're sitting back and they're saying, but they're saying on the alternative to this is to let her go would mean the whole world's financial system is going to go boom. Because if they let Italy go and they let Spain go and they let these countries go and they don't keep supporting the banking system, the whole thing is just going to melt down over in Europe. And the European Union's going to it's going to break all apart, and these countries are going to start going back to their old currencies again. That problem won't stay in Europe. That problem is so large, right, that what it'll do is it'll masticize and it'll spread through the entire world. So we're talking about a calamity that's got them so scared that they're damned if they do. They're start. I think there's. This is what I think's going on. I think they're starting to realize that they cannot keep supporting this. It's just too big. They could pump the 20 billion into Italy, but they know that 20 billion's gone. They could pump more money into Greece, but then they know it's gone, and they can just see it coming at them from so many different angles and so much support needed that they're saying to themselves, it's too big for us. But on the other hand, it's too big to let it go. Because if they let it go, they know if they let it go. So what they're doing is they're in a period right here where they're kind of just rubbing their hands together and hoping to buy more time, you know? And so this is an emergency. But they're not going to let you know it's an emergency. They're going to keep it to themselves. They're not going to tell the public that they're in the state that they're in. Because they don't want the public to panic. They're not going to let you know that what they're going through right now. And so let's just take a quick look at this in the Financial Times. Italy's oldest and troubled bank is at the center of a spat between Brussels and the European Central Bank. The Italian government is trying to shore up its banking systems, but efforts to recapitalize the troubled Monte Paschi have been in limbo. See, it's in limbo since December, as the ECB, which is the bank's supervisor, and the European Commission, which policies state aid, argue over responsibilities. See, they're limboing right now. They're shuffling back and forth, and they're trying to buy time. They argue over the responsibilities of the merits of taxpayer bailouts. While Brussels has warned Italy that it must cut its record public debt by April to avoid breaching EU budget rules. So these warnings are just going to go unnoticed because Italy, they can't bring things in line. Are you kidding me? Their economy is toast. Italy's toast. They're not going to be able to bring this in line. And so Rome argues Brussels should give the country more leeway. They can give them all the leeway they want in the world. They should give the country more leeway, given the challenges it faces. Yeah, the challenges it faces is it's broke. From the cost of last year's earthquake and the mitigation of crisis of a sluggish economic recovery. Sluggish economic recovery. This is the same old economic recovery business we've been hearing all along, when there is no recovery. They call it a sluggish economic recovery. But it's no recovery. It's just a downhill slide to infinity. Okay, so that was a Financial Times article. And now let's take a look over here in Zero Hedge just a little bit. He says, while the euro could very well survive a Greek exit, it certainly cannot survive in anything like its present form were Italy to have a full-blown economic and financial crisis that forced it to default on its public debt mountain, 360 billion euros, and growing. Because if they borrow 20 more billion now, it'll be 380 billion. So just notch it up a little bit higher. What the hell? Let's go 400 billion. Let's go 500 billion. Let's go for $1 trillion. Why not? But the problem is these creditors now are starting to say, well, they're starting to think like the kids that are trying to save the sandcastle. They're starting to see that the tide is just too great and it just ain't going to work. And so now they're starting to get stingy with their loans. See? Okay. So let's go back to Zero Hedge. It says, if Italy were to have a full-blown economic and financial crisis that forced it to default on its public debt mountain, among the reasons that there should be a greater concern about Italy rather than a Greek economic crisis is that Italy is very much larger than Greece, being the third largest economy in the Eurozone. Italy's economy is 10 times the size of Greece. Equally troubling is the fact that Italy is the world's third largest sovereign bond market, with a public debt of more than 2.5 trillion. Much of this debt is held by Europe's shaky banking system. which heightens the risk of an Italian sovereign debt default that could shake the global financial system to its core. More than shake it to its core, it could send the whole. I mean, when you start to think that the United States is over 100 trillion in debt and unfunded liabilities on a market-to-market basis, if you start to take a look at China's debt load, take a look at China's ghost cities. You know, the whole world. I've explained this in my last article. Debt is credit. So right now it's on the credit side. As soon as they can't pay, everything switches to debt. It switches from credit to debt. So all these banks in the United States right now says we have all this credit. We have massive credits to our bank. That credit flips to debt instantly as soon as the other guy can't pay. See? And so it's just a flipping. It's a flipping from one side to the other. And that's all those credit the bank has and says, oh, we passed our stress tests, can just that quick go flip. Just that fast. And so then you get a credit freeze. So what happens to us? What's the effect to the man on the street? You want me to tell you what the effect to the man on the street is? You're going to go to your local branch, and you're going to go to use your card. And they're going to have capital controls in place. And you say, well, what's capital controls? I don't know what capital controls are. You'll find out when you stick your card into the ATM machine and you go to withdraw money. The little numbers on the ATM machine will say, you're only allowed $50 this week to withdraw from your account. So you'll take your $50 out and then you'll go back a day later because you're out of money the next day and you got the rest of the week to go. And there's a big lot. First, you have to wait through a big long line. I didn't tell you about that. It goes out the door and down the street. I can show you pictures of that in other countries, but it's coming to us, right? This big long line you're going to have to wait in out in the hot sun. Then you're going to get there to your machine. You're finally going to stick your machine in, and it's going to say, you took your $50 out yesterday. You got to wait 6 more days before you're getting any more. Not only that, the guy that comes to put the money in the machine, loads it up. They bring in the armored truck and they come in, they load the machine up. You know, the guy's got the gun on his hip and he puts the money in the machine. He's not going to come near as much as he used to. So the money is all going to evaporate. You're going to watch it evaporate like a morning dew evaporates when the hot sun comes out in West Texas. Okay, so this is what will happen. If these countries in Europe go down, this is what's going to be coming to the United States, is this kind of thing where you can't get your money. It's like Gerald Celente said. He went into the bank and he said, I want my money. And they wouldn't give it to him. They wouldn't give him, and this was years ago. And they wouldn't give him his money. I've seen this myself. On me. I've seen it. But the bank did give me my money, but I had there's 3 of them standing in front of me, and they were like, it took 20 minutes. I wasn't wanting that much money, but I just exceeded the amount that they're willing to give you in cash, you know. They're now, and they keep reducing this amount down. They got it down now. They won't, in the end, they're going to have it so that if you ask for more than $1,000 cash, you're going to have, just like me, 3 tellers standing in front of you and saying, why do you need this money? They're going to say to you, what do you want it for? And you'll say, that's my business. I only want $1,000. It's my money. And they'll be standing in front of you and they'll be saying, but you're going to have to sign this paper first. And you say, okay, I signed the paper. And you sign the paper, right? You want your money. So it's only $1,000. You hand it to the banker. And then they're going to say, well, now you're going to have to wait 2 weeks while we get the money for you. See, this is the kind of stuff that they're going to start pulling right soon, especially in their efforts to get rid of the crash. What the American people are not realizing is the bankers are actually a bunch of swindlers. So now let's get to this. But this whole thing could break open and just go crazy before it ever gets to this point with the bankers, because they've been slowly descending this way, right? They're slowly getting worse and worse. they might not get a chance to get much worse before this whole thing breaks apart anyway. Because it looks to me like these guys are hedging and stalling and shuffling their feet back and forth on Italy. And if that's the case, if I'm right about that, and that's what I think's going on, then it's not going to be long until Italy breaks open. Because they're getting to the point now where they saved Greece, and they saved Greece, and they saved Greece, but Greece is 1/10 the size of Italy. And now they're going to have to save Italy, and they're going to have to save Italy, and they're just running out of room. And they're getting to the point now where they're scratching their heads, and they're saying, boys, what are we going to do? We're just going to have to give up and let her go. And so all this is going to take all of us by surprise because we're not watching. We don't see what's going on. But I'm telling you what's going on. So now come to my channel and watch, and you'll see what's going on. Thanks for listening. If you like my channel, like and subscribe, and I'm going to keep you up to date on everything as the whole thing happens, as the whole thing collapses. I'm going to be watching it right here, and I'm going to be keeping you up to date on it, so you know where to come to find out what's going on. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.